Vanessa, we need to talk. Now. Colin's voice cut through the air like a knife, sharp and demanding. I turned away from the window, where I had been watching the leaves fall, and faced him. His eyes were hard, devoid of the warmth that once drew me to him. "What is it, Colin?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to the table and picked up the keys to the brand new luxury car my parents had gifted me for my birthday. He jingled them in his hand, a smirk playing on his lips. "I think it's time we put this to good use," he said, his tone dripping with entitlement. I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What do you mean? We've talked about this. That car is mine." Colin's smirk disappeared, replaced by a look of annoyance. "Vanessa, don't be selfish. My job requires a certain image, and that car will help me project it. You don't need it as much as I do." I clenched my fists, anger bubbling up inside me. "Colin, this isn't about the car. It's about you always taking what you want without considering my feelings." He rolled his eyes. "Oh, please. Don't make this about your feelings. This is about practicality. You're being unreasonable." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Colin shot me a look of irritation before storming off to answer it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. This had to stop. I couldn't keep letting him walk all over me. "Vanessa, it's your mother," Colin called from the hallway. I walked over, my heart lifting slightly at the sight of my mother, Susan. She gave me a warm smile and pulled me into a hug. "Hi, sweetheart. I thought I'd drop by and see how you're doing," she said, her eyes filled with concern. "I'm glad you're here, Mom," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "I really need to talk to you." Colin's eyes narrowed as he watched us. "I'll be in my office," he said curtly before disappearing down the hall. Susan led me to the living room, and we sat down on the couch. She took my hand in hers, her touch comforting. "What's going on, Vanessa?" she asked gently. I took a deep breath and told her everything. About Colin's demands, his manipulation, and how he had been using me for my financial support. As I spoke, the weight of my words seemed to lift off my shoulders, replaced by a sense of relief. Susan listened intently, her expression growing more serious with each passing moment. When I finished, she sighed and shook her head. "Oh, Vanessa, I'm so sorry you've been going through this. You deserve so much better." "I know, Mom, but I don't know what to do. I feel trapped." Susan squeezed my hand. "You need to stand up for yourself, sweetheart. You can't let him control you like this." I nodded, feeling a newfound determination. "You're right. I need to take back control of my life." Just then the front door opened, and my Aunt Laura walked in. She was a force to be reckoned with, her presence commanding attention. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What's going on here?" Laura asked, her eyes narrowing. I quickly filled her in on the situation, and she shook her head in disbelief. "That man has some nerve. Vanessa, you need to put your foot down. Don't let him bully you." "I won't," I said, my voice firmer now. "I can't keep living like this." Laura nodded approvingly. "Good. And remember, you have us. We're here for you." As we sat there, the three of us united, I felt a sense of strength and resolve. I wasn't alone. I had my family, and with their support, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The door to Colin's office creaked open, and he stepped out, looking at us with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice laced with irritation. I stood up, meeting his gaze with a newfound confidence. "Colin, we need to talk. And this time, you're going to listen." His eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't argue. As I led him back into the living room, I knew this was just the beginning. The beginning of taking back my life, my independence, and my happiness. And I was ready for the fight. "Vanessa, you can't be serious." Colin's voice was a mixture of disbelief and anger. He stood in the middle of the living room, his face flushed with frustration. "I am serious, Colin," I replied, my voice steady. "I want a divorce." His eyes narrowed. "You can't just decide that on a whim. What about everything we've built together?" I scoffed. What we've built? You mean what I've built while you took advantage of me? Colin's jaw tightened, and he took a step closer, his presence looming. You don't know what you're talking about. You're being irrational. Before I could respond, the front door opened and my father, John, walked in. He paused, taking in the tense atmosphere, and then his eyes settled on me with concern. What's going on here? He asked, his voice calm but firm. I was just telling Colin that I want a divorce, I said, meeting my father's gaze. John's expression hardened as he turned to Colin. Is that so? Colin's face twisted with irritation. This is a private matter, John. It doesn't concern you. John took a step forward, his protective nature coming to the forefront. When it comes to my daughter, it concerns me very much. Colin opened his mouth to retort, but before he could, my mother, Susan, appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with worry. John, what's happening? John glanced at her and then back at Colin. Vanessa wants a divorce, and Colin here seems to think he can bully her into staying. Susan's face fell, and she rushed over to me, wrapping her arms around me in a tight hug. Oh, Vanessa, are you okay? I nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. I'll be okay, Mom. I just need to get out of this marriage. Colin threw his hands up in exasperation. This is ridiculous. You're all ganging up on me. Maybe because you deserve it. A new voice chimed in. My Aunt Laura stepped into the room, her eyes blazing with anger. I've heard enough about your behavior, Colin. It's time you faced the consequences. Colin glared at her, but Laura didn't back down. She crossed her arms and stared him down, her presence commanding the room. You've taken advantage of Vanessa for too long, Laura continued. It's time she takes back control of her life. Colin's face turned red with anger, and he took a step toward Laura, but John quickly intervened, placing a firm hand on Colin's chest. That's enough, Colin. You need to leave. Colin looked around the room, his eyes filled with rage and desperation. This isn't over. He spat before storming out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Silence filled the room for a moment before Susan spoke up, her voice trembling. Vanessa, are you sure about this? I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. Yes, Mom. I can't keep living like this. I need to do this for myself. John placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. We're here for you, Vanessa. Whatever you need, we'll support you. Laura nodded in agreement. And don't worry about Colin. We'll make sure he doesn't cause any more trouble. As I looked around at my family, I felt a sense of strength and resolve. I wasn't alone in this fight. I had the support and love of my family, and with their help, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new message. I glanced at it and saw it was from Colin. My heart sank as I read the words. You think you can just walk away? This isn't over, Vanessa. You'll regret this. I showed the message to Laura, who frowned. He's not going to give up easily. We'll need to be prepared. I nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. I'm ready for whatever comes next. Laura placed a reassuring hand on my arm. And we're ready with you. As I stood there, surrounded by my family, I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. But I was ready to face it head-on, with the love and support of those who mattered most. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. I groggily reached for it, squinting at the screen. It was my lawyer, Mr. Thompson. My heart skipped a beat as I answered the call. Good morning, Vanessa. Mr. Thompson's voice was calm and professional. I wanted to inform you that Colin has filed a motion to contest the divorce. He's claiming financial hardship and requesting alimony. I sat up, my mind racing. Alimony? But he's the one who took advantage of me financially. I understand, Vanessa, Mr. Thompson replied, but we need to be prepared. This could get messy. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a wave of anxiety wash over me. Just as I was about to get out of bed, I heard a knock on my bedroom door. It was my mother, Susan. Vanessa, are you all right? She asked, her voice filled with concern. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Colin is contesting the divorce and requesting alimony. Susan's eyes widened in disbelief. Alimony? That's outrageous. I nodded, feeling a mix of anger and frustration. I need to fight this, Mom. I can't let him take any more from me. Susan placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. You have our support, Vanessa. We'll get through this together. Later that day, I met with Laura at a cozy cafe downtown. As soon as I walked in, she waved me over to a corner table. Her eyes were filled with determination. I heard about Colin's latest stunt, Laura said, her voice low but firm. We need to strategize. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief that I had her on my side. What do you suggest? Laura leaned in, her expression serious. We need to gather evidence of his infidelity and financial manipulation. The more proof we have, the stronger our case will be. I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of determination. All right, I'll do whatever it takes. Just as we were discussing our plan, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Colin. My heart pounded as I read his words. Meet me at the house. We need to talk. I showed the message to Laura, who frowned. Be careful, Vanessa. He might try to manipulate you again. I nodded, feeling a mix of apprehension and resolve. I'll be cautious. When I arrived at the house, Colin was waiting for me in the living room. His expression was a mix of anger and desperation. Vanessa, we need to talk, he said, his voice tense. I crossed my arms, keeping my distance. What do you want, Colin? He took a deep breath, trying to compose himself. I don't want this divorce. We can work things out. I shook my head, feeling a surge of anger. Work things out? You mean continue to manipulate and control me? No, Colin. I'm done. Colin's face twisted with frustration. You're making a mistake, Vanessa. You can't handle everything on your own. I felt a surge of determination. I can and I will. I have my family, and I have the strength to move on without you. Colin's eyes narrowed, and he took a step closer. You'll regret this. Before I could respond, the front door opened and my father, John, walked in. He looked between us, his expression serious. Is everything all right here? John asked, his voice calm but firm. Colin glared at him but didn't say anything. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of relief that my father was there. Everything's fine, Dad, I said, meeting Colin's gaze. I was just leaving. As I walked out of the house, I felt a mixture of fear and determination. This was just the beginning of a long and difficult battle, but I knew I had the strength to face it head-on. Later that evening, I sat down with my family to discuss our next steps. Laura had already started gathering evidence, and my parents were fully supportive. We'll get through this, Vanessa, Laura said, her voice filled with determination. We'll make sure Colin doesn't get away with this. I nodded, feeling a sense of hope and resolve. Thank you, everyone. I couldn't do this without you. As we sat there, united in our determination, I knew that this was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey. But with the love and support of my family, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. I was in the middle of packing up some of Colin's things when my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Laura. Meet me at the office ASAP. Urgent. My heart raced as I grabbed my coat and headed out the door. The drive to Laura's office felt like an eternity, my mind swirling with possibilities. When I arrived, Laura was pacing back and forth, her face etched with worry. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. Laura stopped and looked at me, her eyes serious. Vanessa, I found something. Colin's been hiding assets. My stomach dropped. Hiding assets? What do you mean? Laura handed me a stack of documents. He's been funneling money into an offshore account. He was planning to leave you with nothing. I felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over me. How could he do this? After everything I've done for him? Laura placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. I know, Vanessa, but we have to act fast. We need to present this evidence to your lawyer and the court. I nodded, feeling a surge of determination. Let's do it. We spent the next few hours gathering all the evidence and contacting Mr. Thompson. He was shocked but assured us that this new information would strengthen our case. As we left his office, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. The stakes were higher than ever, and I knew I had to stay strong. When I got home, my parents were waiting for me. Susan immediately noticed the tension in my face. "Vanessa, what happened?" I took a deep breath and explained everything. John clenched his fists, his protective instincts kicking in. "That snake. We'll make sure he doesn't get away with this." Susan hugged me tightly. "You're doing the right thing, Vanessa. We're here for you." Just as we were about to sit down for dinner, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Ruth and Charles, Colin's parents, standing there with stern expressions. "We need to talk," Ruth said, her voice cold. I stepped aside, letting them in. They wasted no time getting to the point. "Vanessa, we understand you're going through a difficult time," Charles began, trying to sound reasonable. "But we believe there's been a misunderstanding. Colin is willing to work things out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A misunderstanding? He's been hiding assets and trying to leave me with nothing. Ruth's eyes narrowed. "That's a serious accusation. We need to see proof." I felt a surge of anger. "You want proof? Fine. I'll get it." I stormed upstairs and grabbed the documents Laura had given me. When I returned, I handed them to Ruth and Charles. Their faces paled as they read through the evidence. This can't be true," Charles stammered. "It's true," I said firmly. "Colin has been lying and manipulating all of us." Ruth's face twisted with anger. "We had no idea. But this changes nothing. We still believe you should work things out." I shook my head, feeling a mixture of frustration and resolve. "No. I'm done being manipulated. I'm done being used. This marriage is over." Ruth opened her mouth to argue, but John stepped in, his voice firm. "Vanessa has made her decision. You need to respect that." Charles sighed, looking defeated. "We didn't come here to fight. We just wanted to understand." I felt a pang of sympathy but stood my ground. "I appreciate that. But this is my life, and I need to take control of it." Ruth and Charles exchanged a glance before nodding reluctantly. "We'll leave you to it," Ruth said, her voice softer now. "But know that we're here if you need to talk." As they left, I felt a sense of relief mixed with sadness. This was the hardest thing I had ever done, but I knew it was the right choice. Later that night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Colin. "I know about the offshore account. You won't win this." I felt a chill run down my spine, but I quickly shook it off. I couldn't let him intimidate me. I was stronger than that. I texted Laura, updating her on the latest development. Her response was immediate. "Stay strong, Vanessa. We'll get through this." As I put my phone down, I knew I had to stay focused. This was just another hurdle, and I was determined to overcome it. With my family by my side and the truth on my side, I knew I could face whatever came next. I was sitting in Mr. Thompson's office, my fingers tapping nervously on the armrest of the chair. The evidence we had gathered about Colin's offshore account had been submitted, and we were waiting for the judge's decision. The tension in the room was palpable. "Vanessa, I want you to stay calm," Mr. Thompson said, his voice steady. "No matter what happens today, we have a strong case." I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. Just then, the door opened and Colin walked in, flanked by his parents, Ruth and Charles. Colin's smug expression made my blood boil. "Let's get this over with," Colin said, his voice dripping with arrogance. We all took our seats and the judge entered the room. After a brief introduction, she began reviewing the evidence. My heart pounded as I watched her expression, trying to gauge her reaction. "Mr. Thompson, the evidence you've presented is compelling," the judge said, looking up from the documents. "However, Mr. Colin's counsel has raised concerns about the authenticity of these documents." I felt a wave of panic. "What? They're authentic. We have proof." The judge raised a hand to silence me. "Mrs. Vanessa, please remain calm. We will conduct a thorough investigation to verify the authenticity of these documents. Until then, the motion for alimony will remain under consideration." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Colin's lawyer had managed to cast doubt on our evidence, and now everything was up in the air. As we left the courtroom, Colin smirked at me. "Nice try, Vanessa. But you won't win this." I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of anger and determination. "This isn't over, Colin. I'll prove the truth." Back at home, I felt a wave of despair. Susan and John were waiting for me, their faces filled with concern. "What happened?" Susan asked, her voice trembling. I explained the situation, and John shook his head in disbelief. "That man is unbelievable. We'll find a way to prove the truth, Vanessa." Laura arrived shortly after, her eyes blazing with determination. "We need to dig deeper. There has to be more evidence out there." I nodded, feeling a renewed sense of resolve. "You're right. We can't give up now." We spent the next few days working tirelessly, combing through financial records and contacting anyone who might have information. It was exhausting, but I knew we had to keep pushing forward. One evening, as I was going through some old emails, I found a message from one of Colin's former business partners. My heart raced as I read it. It mentioned a secret meeting where Colin had discussed hiding assets. This could be the breakthrough we needed. I immediately called Laura and Mr. Thompson, and we arranged to meet the next morning. As I explained what I had found, their eyes lit up with hope. "This could be it," Mr. Thompson said, his voice filled with excitement. "We need to get a statement from this business partner." Laura nodded. "I'll reach out to him and set up a meeting." The next day, we met with Colin's former business partner, a man named Greg. He was hesitant at first, but after we explained the situation, he agreed to help. "I never liked what Colin was doing," Greg admitted. "I'll give you a statement and any documents I have." With Greg's statement and additional evidence, we returned to Mr. Thompson's office. He reviewed everything and nodded with satisfaction. "This should be enough to prove our case," he said, his voice confident. As we prepared for the next court hearing, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. This was our chance to finally expose Colin's deceit and end this nightmare. The day of the hearing arrived, and we all gathered in the courtroom once again. Colin's smug expression faltered as he saw the new evidence we had brought. The judge reviewed everything carefully, and after what felt like an eternity, she looked up at us. "Based on the new evidence presented, it is clear that Mr. Colin has been hiding assets and attempting to deceive the court. The motion for alimony is denied, and the divorce settlement will be revised accordingly." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. We had done it. Colin's deceit was finally exposed, and I could move forward with my life. As we left the courtroom, Colin glared at me, his face twisted with anger. "This isn't over, Vanessa." I met his gaze with unwavering determination. "Yes, it is, Colin. I'm taking back my life. With my family by my side, I knew I had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. This was just the beginning of a new chapter, and I was ready to embrace it. A year had passed since the court had finally ruled in my favor. I had moved into a cozy apartment downtown and started a new job at a marketing firm. With Laura's encouragement and my family's unwavering support, I felt like I was finally rebuilding my life. But just as I began to feel a sense of normalcy, Colin's shadow loomed once more. One evening, as I was wrapping up work, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's urgent. Dave." I felt a jolt of anxiety. Dave and I had grown close over the past few months, sharing countless conversations and moments of quiet support. But this message felt different, urgent, almost desperate. I quickly called him back. "Dave, what's going on?" His voice was tense. "Vanessa, I need you to come to the cafe on 5th Avenue. Now." I grabbed my coat and rushed out, my heart pounding with every step. When I arrived, Dave was already there, his face pale and eyes wide with worry. "Dave, what's happening?" I asked, sitting down across from him. He took a deep breath. "Colin approached me today. He knows about us, Vanessa, and he's threatening to ruin your life if you don't come back to him." I felt a wave of nausea. "What? How did he find out?" "He hired a private investigator," Dave explained. "He has photos, messages, everything. He's planning to use it against you in court, to claim you're unfit to manage your own finances. I felt the room spin. This can't be happening. We just got through the worst of it. Dave reached across the table, taking my hand. Vanessa will get through this. But we need a plan. I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. We need to talk to Laura and Mr. Thompson. They'll know what to do. That night, we gathered at Laura's house. She listened intently as we explained the situation, her eyes narrowing with determination. Colin is desperate, she said. He's trying to drag you back into his control. But we're not going to let that happen. Mr. Thompson nodded in agreement. We need to act fast. We'll file a restraining order and gather evidence to prove that Colin is harassing you. As we discussed our plan, I felt a mixture of fear and resolve. This was the most significant crisis yet, and it felt like everything was at stake. But I knew I couldn't back down. The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings and legal preparations. We filed the restraining order and gathered statements from friends and colleagues who could attest to Colin's harassment. But just as we began to feel a sense of progress, another blow came. I was at work when I received a call from my boss. Vanessa, can you come to my office? My heart sank as I walked down the hallway. When I entered, my boss's expression was grave. Vanessa, we've received an anonymous tip alleging misconduct on your part. We need to investigate these claims. I felt a wave of panic. What? This has to be a mistake. I'm afraid we have to take it seriously, my boss said. Until the investigation is complete, we'll have to place you on temporary leave. I left the office in a daze, feeling like my world was crumbling around me. When I got home, I found my parents and Laura waiting for me. I explained what had happened, and they immediately knew who was behind it. Colin's trying to sabotage your career, John said, his voice filled with anger. We can't let him get away with this. We need to fight back, Laura said, her eyes blazing with determination. We have to expose his true nature once and for all. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a mixture of fear and determination. Colin had pushed me to my limit, but I knew I couldn't give up. With my family and Dave by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next. The next morning, I received a message from Colin. Meet me at the park. Alone. We need to talk. I knew it was a trap, but I also knew I had to confront him. As I walked to the park, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and resolve. This was the moment that would determine everything. When I arrived, Colin was waiting, his expression smug. Vanessa, it's time you came back to me. You can't win this. I took a deep breath, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. You're wrong, Colin. I can and I will. As we stood there, the tension between us palpable, I knew this was just the beginning of the final battle. Everything was at stake, but I was ready to fight for my freedom, my happiness, and my future. I stood in the park facing Colin, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. His smug expression made my skin crawl, but I refused to let him see my fear. Vanessa, you can't win this, Colin sneered, taking a step closer. You think you can just walk away and be happy with someone else? Think again. I took a deep breath, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. I'm not afraid of you, Colin. You can't control me anymore. His eyes flashed with anger. We'll see about that. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a call from Laura. I turned away from Colin, answering it quickly. Laura, what's going on? Vanessa, you need to get out of there. Laura's voice was urgent. Colin's been making threats, and we have reason to believe he's planning something dangerous. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Just get somewhere safe, Laura insisted. We'll explain everything when you get back. I hung up, feeling a surge of panic. I needed to get away from Colin, but he was blocking my path. What's the matter, Vanessa? Colin taunted. Running away again? I took a step back, trying to stay calm. I'm leaving, Colin. This conversation is over. He grabbed my arm, his grip tight and painful. You're not going anywhere. I struggled to break free, my mind racing. Just then I heard a voice call out. Let her go, Colin. I turned to see Dave running toward us, his face filled with determination. Colin's grip tightened, but I managed to pull away as Dave reached us. "Stay out of this," Colin growled, glaring at Dave. Dave stood his ground, his eyes locked on Colin. "Vanessa is done with you. Leave her alone." Colin's face twisted with rage. "You think you can just swoop in and save the day? You're nothing." Ignoring Colin's insults, Dave took my hand and led me away. My heart was pounding, but I felt a sense of relief wash over me as we hurried back to Laura's house. When we arrived, Laura, Susan, and John were waiting for us, their faces filled with concern. Laura quickly explained the situation. "Colin's been making threats against you, Vanessa," Laura said, her voice tense. "We have reason to believe he's planning to sabotage your career further and possibly harm you." I felt a wave of fear. "What do? We need to go to the police," John said firmly. "We can't let him get away with this." Dave nodded in agreement. "I'll go with you, Vanessa. We need to make sure you're safe." As we prepared to leave, I felt a mix of fear and determination. This was the most significant crisis yet, and it felt like everything was at stake. But I knew I couldn't back down. At the police station, we filed a report and provided all the evidence we had gathered. The officers took our statements seriously and assured us they would take immediate action. As we left the station, I felt a sense of relief but also a lingering fear. Colin was desperate, and I knew he wouldn't give up easily. Back at Laura's house, we discussed our next steps. Mr. Thompson was working on strengthening our legal case, and we had the support of my family and friends. But the tension was palpable, and I knew we were in for a tough battle. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with thoughts of what might come next. Colin was pushing me to my limit, but I knew I had to stay strong. With Dave by my side and the support of my family, I felt a glimmer of hope. The next morning, I received a message from my boss. "Vanessa, the investigation has been dropped. We found evidence that the claims against you were fabricated. You can return to work immediately." I felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Colin's attempts to sabotage my career had failed, but I knew the battle wasn't over yet. As I prepared to face whatever came next, I felt a renewed sense of determination. This was the moment that would determine everything, and I was ready to fight for my freedom, my happiness, and my future. With my family and Dave by my side, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The final battle was approaching, and I was ready to confront Colin once and for all. The day of the final showdown arrived with a sense of impending resolution. I stood in the courtroom, my heart pounding as Colin's lawyer presented his final arguments. The room was filled with tension, every eye on us, every breath held in anticipation. "Your Honor, my client has been unfairly targeted by baseless accusations," Colin's lawyer argued, his voice smooth and confident. "We request that the court dismiss these claims and grant Mr. Colin the alimony he rightfully deserves." I glanced at Mr. Thompson, who stood up, his expression resolute. "Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. Mr. Colin has engaged in deceitful and manipulative behavior, hiding assets and harassing my client. We ask the court to see through his facade and rule in favor of Mrs. Vanessa." The judge's eyes moved between us, her expression unreadable. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice steady and authoritative. "After reviewing all the evidence and testimonies, it is clear that Mr. Colin has indeed engaged in unethical behavior. The motion for alimony is denied, and the divorce settlement will be revised to reflect Mrs. Vanessa's contributions and sacrifices." A wave of relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of finality. This was it, the end of a long, painful chapter. As the judge continued to outline the terms of the settlement, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Colin's face twisted with rage and desperation. "This isn't fair. You can't do this to me." The judge's gavel came down with a resounding thud. "This court is adjourned." As people began to file out of the courtroom, Colin stormed over to me, his eyes blazing. "You think you've won? This isn't over, Vanessa." I stood my ground, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. "Yes, it is, Colin. It's over. Dave appeared at my side, his presence a comforting anchor. Let's go, Vanessa. We walked out of the courtroom together, my family waiting for us with open arms. Susan hugged me tightly, tears of relief in her eyes. You did it, sweetheart. It's finally over. John placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. We're so proud of you, Vanessa. Laura's eyes sparkled with pride. You stood up for yourself and fought back. You're stronger than ever. As we left the courthouse, I felt a sense of liberation. The nightmare was finally behind me, and I could look forward to a future filled with hope and possibility. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I returned to work, my colleagues welcoming me back with open arms. I poured myself into my projects, finding joy and fulfillment in my career. With Dave's unwavering support, I felt a sense of stability and love that I had never experienced before. One evening, as we sat on the porch of my apartment, watching the sunset, Dave took my hand in his. Vanessa, I have something to ask you. I turned to him, my heart skipping a beat. What is it, Dave? He looked into my eyes, his expression filled with love and sincerity. Will you marry me? Tears filled my eyes as I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. Yes, Dave, I will. As we embraced, I felt a sense of completeness and happiness that I had never known. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, support, and endless possibilities. Reflecting on my journey, I realized how far I had come. From a naive, love-struck woman to a strong, independent person, I had learned the importance of resilience, self-esteem, and asserting boundaries in relationships. My family had been my rock, their support and love guiding me through the darkest times. As I looked toward the future with Dave by my side, I knew that I was ready to embrace whatever came next. The past was behind me, and I was free to create a life filled with joy, love, and endless possibilities. With a heart full of hope and a spirit unbreakable, I stepped into the future, leaving the shadows of my past behind. This was my journey forward, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms.